Of lectures and argumentation for AP English language composition. This is lecture 6, writing the body paragraph, and we're actually going to talk about how to write it from beginning to end. Right, here we go. When writing the body paragraph, you really want to do three things that we've talked about before, the what, the how, and the why. But these are three questions that you want to answer. What is the support for the claim that you made in the thesis? Remember, the claim in the thesis was humorists play a vital role. That's in direct response to the prompt. So, what is the support that you provided in that thesis? Well, one of the supports was that political cartoons can often change the landscape of American politics. Okay, like I haven't brought up Thomas Nast, but now in the body I will. So I have to go back to that support that I provided, that first support, and that has to become my new claim for the beginning of the body paragraph, right? So, what is the support that I'm going to focus on? I'm going to focus on political cartoons and most notably Thomas Nast. I don't have to include him now, but I will have to include him at some point. So, what is the support for the claim that I made? How is that support true, important, relevant, verifiable, right? You have to explain that support, unpack that support. You want to think of the body as try to pack a really heavy, claim heavy sentence at the beginning, and then unpack that sentence as you go throughout the body paragraph. And all the while, you are explaining why does it say something significant about the thesis that you created in the introduction. These are reflections that you leave along the way. Let me say this in another way. When we're talking about the what of the body paragraph, the establishing of what we're going to talk about, what we really want to do is we want to provide a claim to begin the body discussion. Then, when we talk about the how, really what we want to do is substantiate that claim that we provided at the beginning of the body. So I make a claim. Now I have to substantiate that claim. How do I substantiate it? Well, you explain it. You provide examples. You explain the examples. You relate the examples to the explanation, right? So the last thing you want to do also is offer a reflection on that claim. So again, provide the claim, substantiate the claim, reflect on the claim. Now, this is the body that we'll be working with. Well, I'm not going to read it now because we are going to be breaking it up little by little as we go through the pieces. But this is the body. If you want to pause here so you can read it, all right. The first sentence, all right. The first sentence again seeks to justify the thesis by providing a clear, supportable argument. Cartoonists have the power to depict a social injustice in a hyperbolized way to emphasize the flaws that might not be apparent to all people. Okay, that's a big sentence. Now the writer has to unpack that sentence. That cartoonists have a power to present information in an exaggerated fashion, right? That emphasizes flaws that other people may not see. And this is important. Okay, well, let's see how that works. Now, here's some more examples for a first sentence. The key to a first sentence, again, is to provide a clear direction for that body paragraph. I mean, that's true of any body paragraph, of any paragraph, really, but especially here. Polite speech, when talking about the value or function of polite speech, is necessary in human culture because it reminds us that we are capable of being kind. Okay, I have a direction. You're going to talk about polite speech and human kindness. All right. For those in grim situations, often the choice is risk for freedom. Remember, the conversation here is the human being wants to be safe or free, safety versus freedom. That's the basic conversation. This is ineffective because for those in grim situations, the choice is risk for freedom. It doesn't quite say what we're going to talk about, except freedom, right, and taking risks, but I don't know of what way. Nothing here is really explained. Uh, Here, safety begets freedom. The knowledge that one is secure in their rights to explore the endless opportunity life has to offer increases motivation to socialize and explore. It's almost adequate. Why is it almost adequate and not quite adequate? Because here, the claim is that safety somehow gives birth or brings forth freedom because of the knowledge that one is secure in the rights to explore the endless opportunities. But then the implication is that you are safest, you are the most free when you are safest. But here, safety is not quite explained. What is this safety here? That we have rights? Is that what safety means here? It's not fully explained. I think that's the biggest problem here. But either way, these are examples of first sentences. Let's look at the middle portion. The middle portion is the biggest part of the body paragraph. Remember, you are setting up the body by presenting a claim right at the beginning, and then you are unpacking that claim through a series of examples or through a series of sub-related examples, right? This is your evidence. So these are the things that you want to do when you're doing this, right? This is the thing you want to do when you're doing this. You want to present your evidence. What is my evidence? Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's an example, maybe it's a summary of something that happened in history, right? Then you want to explain how that evidence supports the claim. Then you want to tell me why the evidence is crucial to the understanding of the claim, right? Because just because you give me a claim and you give me evidence for that claim, it doesn't mean that the evidence actually supports the claim. You have to relate the evidence to the claim in order to successfully support the claim. I hope that makes sense. Let me explain it another way. You want to introduce evidence, you want to state the evidence directly, you want to explain what that evidence entails, then you want to present and explain more evidence, and sometimes it does become necessary to have more evidence. And then you want to relate that evidence to the thesis that you presented at the beginning, connecting, all the while connecting the evidence to a general idea, right? And this idea is that humorists have a fundamental value to their society. That's the implication here. So when we're looking at the argumentative essay, we want to consider also within the body paragraph where the, well, counter is probably what you know it as, the counterclaim, the counter argument. You really want to think of it as an acknowledgement of the opposition, an ATO. Why is it that we call it an acknowledgement of the opposition? Because what we really want to do is nod to the opposition, right? We want to let the reader know that we are aware that our argument is not in a vacuum, right? So, for instance, if I'm talking about political cartoons and how Thomas Nast changed the face of American politics, I may say something like, not all political cartoons have this value or have this function or have this ability. Some are just meant to ridicule and to mock, and they really don't have any educational or instructive satiric quality to them. I may acknowledge that. That's good. Acknowledging that tells my reader that I don't believe that all political cartoons can change the world, but I think there is enough evidence to prove that sometimes political cartoonists can really affect the world. That's the point of the acknowledgement of the opposition, right? Letting the reader know that your argument is well grounded because you're able to make a small concession. That's the idea. Do not dedicate an entire body paragraph to it. Do not do that. I don't know why this is a thing. A lot of people do this. Don't do this. It's best if you sprinkle this acknowledgement of the opposition throughout your body paragraphs. I like it buried in the middle. I don't like it at the beginning. I don't like it at the end. I don't like it at the beginning because then the rest of the body feels like a response to the counter, right? And we're not going to spend an entire body paragraph on the opposite of your argument. You should focus on your argument. When you prove that somebody else is wrong, you don't prove that you are right. You've only proven that they're wrong. So I don't like it at the end because it's not tasteful. It leaves the impression that the last idea that I'm going to give is what somebody else thinks, something that weakens my argument. I don't think so. I like it somewhere in the middle of the body, somewhere buried. So the reader understands that it's there and you're aware of it, but you're going to move on and finish strong with your own independent argument, right? You have the final word. It's your essay, not theirs. All right, let's talk about the final sentence within this body paragraph, right? We talked about the first sentence, which establishes the claim. We talked about the middle portion, which explains that claim, unpacks that claim, right, by presenting a series of related examples that provide evidence. This last sentence should really wrap up the body and reflect on the impact of that claim and on the relationship of that claim to the thesis. Everything should go back to your thesis. It's a top down method. The idea you began with, now you have to explain it. Now you have to explain it. So this final sentence should feel something like this. Let's look at the slightly above adequate example, right? Migrants from both Syria and Myanmar demonstrate the basic human need for freedom and the endless efforts people will go to obtain it. The context here is safety versus freedom. So, if I've been talking about these migrants, and now I say that they demonstrate the basic human need for freedom, it sort of makes sense. Even if you didn't know the context, you kind of feel like this makes sense. This is pretty good. Right, that works. Look at one that's ineffective. Ineffective. This, now, of course, the pronoun is summarizing something that came before it, right? But that notwithstanding this, the sentence still doesn't work. So this demonstrates contemporary prioritization of freedom, even at the cost of welfare, right? It doesn't sound reflective because it isn't. You cannot end a body paragraph by saying everything I've said demonstrates what I've been trying to say. That's not how you end a body, right? You have to end the body with a final look at the issue. You go back to the claim you made at the beginning of the body and you say, I can say that better, and I can reflect on it now. I have convinced myself. That's the idea. So here's the complete body. So you can look at it once more, right, from beginning to end if you want to pause the video so you can read it. Next time, we're going to talk about the conclusion. That's it.